this is a very real public health issue.
There's no push for like regulation, like on state and government levels for this stuff. It just shows where our priorities are.
Yeah, as a society, for sure.
We try to, provide a public service, but the fact that we need to is the problem. Hello, my name is Tony Chin-Quee.
And I'm Frances May Harden.
And welcome to Social Rounds, the podcast in which two of the happiest surgeon dropouts you'll ever meet give our unsolicited opinions on the states of medicine, the world at large, pop culture, and whatever else we happen to find interesting. And guys, guess what? I don't know if you can tell, like if you're not watching visually right now, if you're just listening, I'm sure it's apparent that I got a little congestion in my nose area. Because I've been sick, because my children are cesspools, and I've been sick all week. I've been stuffed up. And I just want to start by talking about doctors getting sick, particularly with the thing their specialty is supposed to know how to treat. Because I think people are not very kind to us when that happens. I think it's very rude, just because I'm an ENT, and then I meet people, and they're just, I'm like, they have my stuffy nose, and they're just like, whoa, are you supposed to know how to take care of that? It's like, fuck you. I still get sick. It is what it is. Yeah, I know how to treat it, but still, even though you treat it, you're still sick. Is that not true? Like, have you experienced this, Franz? Because it just, like, it reminded me of that this week, and then I just got frustrated in my sick bed.
Do people really say that to you?
They say that all the time. They're just, especially when I was practicing, if I had, like, a stuffy nose, and I'd been, like, treating myself, but still they could tell and said, they're like, hey, do you even know what you're really talking about? Because this stuffy nose is just disconcerting. I was like, all right, you can eat a dick, because we get stuffed up. It's not the end of the world. It's like, that's like saying like, oh, the GI doctor is like, oh, you're constipated? Well, you must not know what the fuck you're doing.
I mean, well, with that specifically, it is like the GI doctors I know are pretty on top of their fiber and stuff like that. But no, I get what you're saying, I guess, but it sounds nightmarish. I will say this is kind of like shout out to me and my general visage, which is that people do not say that shit to me. That is crazy. I probably look like I might punch someone if they said stuff like that to me, and I might punch someone if they said stuff like that to me. That has never happened to me.
Really?
I almost think it's
God.
Never. I mean, that level of attitude, but again,
it's not even attitude. People are just like, sometimes it's like cheerfully, like, it's like, you should know better than to let your body do the thing that everyone else's body does from time to time.
Maybe you are just more approachable. That is not a form of small talk or commentary I have experienced. And feel free to continue to not bring that to my doorstep. Like, that's crazy. I'm sorry that you got that this week. Because, yes, I think that ENTs have just as many rights as everyone else. And you can especially like when it's viral and the care is supportive, like you can just convalesce the same way everyone else is allowed to.
Yes, we are allowed. So here's a fun fact. One, I wrote a book a few years ago. It's called I Can't Save You. Buy it at the bookstore, whatever. But fun fact 1A is that I read the audiobook for my book, which was really fun. Fun fact 1A, subheading, Roman numeral 1 is when I recorded that I had a massive viral cold. I flew to New York City to record in the studio. As soon as I got off the airplane, I was like, oh, fuck. I am like stuffed up to high heaven. So I went to the pharmacy. I got myself, I was drugged through my skull with, I was like, Afrin in the morning, Afrin in the evening for like a whole week.
No.
Yeah. And
that's
plus Sudafed. It's too long. Yeah. But I was just like, you know what? What am I supposed to do here? I got to do this thing. And I was without access to people who could just like, here's a fun fact for everybody. Some of your favorite, concert performers, if they're ever kind of not feeling quite right when they come to a particular city for their concerts, they have an ENT that they'll see in every city. And one of my bosses was one of those ENTs in Detroit. And he would have like famous people come in the day of their concert who had like, they were like, I don't know, I think I got a little something brewing. And he'd shoot them with steroids in the ass right in the clinic so that they could perform. And it is what it is. But I didn't, and then, you know, it's a great thing to do if you need a quick thing, but I didn't have no access to steroid shots. So I had to do the Afrin, which to the uninitiated, because not everybody's in the NT there, Afrin, oxymetazoline is that magic nose spray that some people find and they're like, whoa,
That
what
is
is this? I'm gonna use
addictive.
this. It's super addictive because it works so quick and, you know, it lasts for half a day and all of a sudden you can breathe. But the more you use it, the shorter the time that it continues to work. And ultimately, you end up more stuffed up chronically every day for, you know, a long time than you were before. It's called rhinitis medicamentosa. Oh, just pulled that one out of the archives. I haven't said that in a minute, but, yeah, don't do that. But I was running the risk of getting that medicamentosa for, you know, audiobook
Yeah,
purposes.
for
And
your
I think
audiobook, you had to do it. No, I would
I
have done the
had to
same thing.
do it.
But honestly, Tony, what you could have done as well, because, you know, you were in New York City, you could have walked into an urgent care and been like, today's the day. Like, I'm very sick. I need steroids to perform. Like, do you know who I am? I'm Tony. I got to get my audiobook done. I'm just saying, like,
That is true. I did doubt my celebrity at that point. That
I
was a
mean,
problem.
I can say, having been a provider, like, you don't have to be a celebrity. Some people just walk in and they're like, anyway, the sinus infection's back. Like, I'm demanding steroids. That happens in urgent cares, especially, I think, in that setting.
I had not a lot of time. And two, it didn't cross my mind to abuse the urgent care system in that way. Is it abuse? Maybe, maybe not. It feels a little abusey.
I mean, urgent care. It literally, it was urgent. You needed care.
It
I'm
felt
not
urgent,
sure
yeah.
that, I mean, you know, maybe
Urgent
abusing
stuffy
it would
nose
be,
guys. Put me at the front of the fucking line.
urgent would be if you were like, I'm going to steal, or, you know, abuse is like if you stole those services. I was just talking about being a patient, like in good fit. I don't know. I think that actually people are allowed to use urgent care for stuff like that, to like seek help.
That is what you're supposed to use urgent care for, I think. Yeah, I think you're right. You're not supposed to go to the
You're gonna,
ER
like, scare
for my
people
stuffy
off of
nose. No, yeah, you're right.
safety net
We need to
care.
talk about, you know, using resources correctly on this podcast. That is one of our societal goals. We're trying to help people out. So yeah, you're right. Next time. But anyway, the point is, be fucking nice to me. Don't let my face invite you to judge, you know, my right to have a cold.
You look friendly. Like, that has to be it.
That's
like,
the
seriously.
fucking problem. Yeah. No, I gotta, no more of this friendly, no more inviting eyebrow raises, none of that shit. All right. No one's getting any more because I'm sick. All right. Let's move on into the show, into news. All right. So this is the segment in which we'll give our rapid fire takes on recent inside baseball news, outside baseball news, and, you know, all the other fun stuff. But this week on Inside Baseball, we're going to discuss a topic that I know the vast majority of our listeners have been clamoring for since we started. And that topic is breast milk, baby. And more specifically, breast milk sharing. So breast milk sharing, or the giving and receiving of breast milk gifts between friends or strangers, has been nourishing babies for literal ages, like since the beginning of time. But the most well-known historical example is the wet nurse. Basically a situation in which rich people, most commonly rich people, would compel a trusted lower-class woman, also known as like probably a slave, to breastfeed their children so that the parents could go back to doing upper-class shit after the unpleasantness known as childbirth. So you fast forward to now. It's the practice of sharing breast milk, and it's evolved, though I would posit it's no more dignified in the eyes of society. So a new study in JAMA estimates that 1 in 27 first-time mothers in the U.S. is now feeding their baby breast milk from an unpaid donor. Sometimes it's a friend, or just as often, it's a complete stranger found on the internet. So no regulations, no health safeguards, just, good old fashioned wild, wild west black market breast milk. So what's going on and why is this happening? Well, it seems to be the result of a perfect storm of economic and cultural and emotional pressures that new mothers are caught in the middle of. So we got the breast is best pressure, right? Like we tell mothers that breast milk is like liquid gold. We've all heard that phrase before because it's inarguably the best possible thing a baby can have at the start of their lives. Primarily, not necessarily because of the nutritional value, because you can get similar value from formula, right? But because the immune system fortifying properties. So, but hearing this, if you're one of the many new moms who struggles with supply, which is many, many people, that can feel like a serious personal failure if you can't make enough breast milk. And then you, of course, have the crisis of formula safety. There were some big time shortages of formula as recent as 2022. A lot of it because of bacterial contamination. Like kids were dying because of bacteria in the powdered formula. And even just this month, some brand was giving babies botulism with the formula. So we got like legitimate formula fear. And finally, there are official milk banks where donor milk is screened and pasteurized, but these are usually prohibitively expensive, not covered by insurance, and are usually reserved for sick and vulnerable babies in ICUs. So moms are increasingly turning to groups on social media where moms with oversupply are freezing their milk, they're donating it for free to other moms in need. But the big question is it wise? So surveys show that most moms barely think about the safety of the milk that they're getting from donors. And 80% of them don't screen their donors just because they got good vibes from the ladies. They just seem trustworthy. The problem is, the risks of not having screening and testing on this breast milk are very real. They can include transmission of diseases like HIV or hepatitis, as well as medications, alcohol, and drugs through the breast milk. So here's a newsflash. This can happen even if the donor has the best intentions. Like even if their vibes are off the charts and they are lovely. Many people, like, the problem is they don't know what they don't know. So of course, they wouldn't disclose to you, for example, that they've been taking an Ativan, at night to help them sleep. And they did that the night before pumping this particular dose of milk because they have no idea that Ativan could get transmitted into a baby and overdose them on benzos. So, of course, the doctors are recommending you involve them in the decision-making and the screening process to help you and your baby stay safe. Although we recognize that this situation can feel really hard to talk about. People feel a lot of shame. People feel judgment, from healthcare professionals. But we're talking about baby safety, guys, and that's got to come first. So, Frances May, to me, this situation, it got me like really fired up because it screams to me that we as a society for the, umpteenth time, don't care about women. We don't care about poor people. We don't care about babies. We love a culture of shame. And it just like makes me furious in ways I find it difficult to articulate. So I'm curious what comes to mind with this bullshit.
Yes, I feel like I learned so much from you because I was today years old when I learned what a wet nurse was.
We don't talk about him, day to day.
Yeah, and for sure, like part of this is like I am not a mom. In my lifetime, breast milk has come up very, very infrequently. Like I just don't, and I don't frequent those parts of the internet or anything. So it has not come up. But I think that you bring up a great point. I do love the saying, like, genuinely, people don't know what they don't know. My favorite surgeon's corollary is the eyes don't see what the brain doesn't know. And so I think that this is a great, just kind of public health note and call out, like, especially as we live in a society where it's like increasingly normalized in a lot of like general populations to be on stuff like benzos. Like that is kind of crazy. And it might be so normal, like you and all of your friends are on benzos in certain like probably middle-aged populations that people wouldn't think, oh, would that be threatening in this breast milk situation? I feel like in terms of this question about like, what does it say about us as a society? I think that a pattern has emerged over the past several decades that people can see and have commented on, which is that like issues that directly affect men tend to get more research dollars, poured into them, right? Like we have, um, all sorts of kind of like highfalutin elective pharma developed around like men's recreation in a way that like this is a very real public health issue, but it impacts two big populations that like don't include those men. And then the last thing that I'll mention is that one item that I have read about, mostly because it comes up in celebrity news, is like surrogacy and ethical considerations around that practice, which is kind of like more extreme than even what we're talking about. But those concerns include that like commercial surrogacy exploits often like vulnerable women, like there's at least the potential for exploitation of surrogates, especially when it's done commercially. And then there's also the commodification of children that comes along with that. But yeah, I mean, like some of these themes are like, are women incubators?
Are they cattle?
Yeah,
Yeah,
cattle,
it's
like
just,
the informed
yeah.
consent ability,
Hmm.
when like when you need to make a living and make income, and this is a way to do it. Like I just think that there's a lot. I view those as being maybe in the same like quadrant of ethical considerations.
Yeah, I think you're right. As far as like talking about the surrogacy question, that there's a whole lot of ethical, questions. But yeah, you're kind of purchasing um someone's autonomy. Like you're purchasing use of their body. You're kind of watching it, you're policing it, you're getting access to every single, function, because you paid for it, like you're paying for them as a
Yeah.
vessel. And, you know, they, you're allowed to tell them, what they can and can't do, what they can and can't eat and drink. You're looking for all that sort of stuff. I don't know what the payout to the actual surrogates is compared to what people pay, like what the service gets. Um, there's a lot of questions that go into that, and I don't know that's the thing. Is like there's no push for like, regulation like on state and government levels for this stuff. I feel like this stuff is still like, whoever tends to be running it, you know, hope that they're a good person. You know what I mean? It's just like, with the breast milk thing, I was talking with my wife about it because we're like deep in this breast milk, talk. Cause like we just like, our kid just turned 1. We have a couple of young kids. So we've been through this question, the question about, not having good supply and, all the emotions and freakouts that come along with that, you know, and the question was like, hey, like, why isn't there like a nonprofit or something like Planned Parenthood, but that that runs like, donated milk, that can screen and test, and like it's a safe way for women to access this stuff that gets funding from someplace. But like you're not fucking getting any funding from this government or like probably any government, for a question like this where you really should. And then you got people who are just doing their fucking best in one of the most vulnerable emotional times of their lives and running a risk of, hopefully my kid doesn't get sick, because every other option may make them sick. And I've been told like, to feel shame for not giving them breast milk. Like, it's really, it just shows where our priorities are. And,
Yeah, as a
and yeah, like
society, for
as a
sure.
society, and it's bullshit. And I see stuff like this come up. We try to, provide a public service by sharing these sorts of things. Should it affect you, or should you know people who it affects? But the fact that we need to is the problem. But
Yeah, and the shame part, I do think that that's why shame competence is super important. Just like, um, and also destigmatizing these things by talking about them. Like I, like many of my colleagues, was born and raised in the '90s. I was formula fed. I'm 6 feet tall, and of my
so tall.
of my
Look at
couple
the
issues that
the
I have, I'm not
bones.
saying I'm
The
a
bones
perfect
are long, guys. It's great.
I'm not saying I'm a perfect woman, a perfect specimen, but I am saying that of the issues I have, I can't blame any of them on being formula fed. Like, I do think this fed is best rhetoric. Like, there's a whole generation of us who literally.
I think I mean, honestly, I mean, my daughter, who's now 4, she was a formula baby because like she had to be. We had supply issues. She couldn't latch on, and we thought we were starving her in the first week. She barely ate. She got really jaundiced, and like in the middle of the night she wouldn't sleep because she was starving. And then we had to like at 2 a.m. just go get her formula. We were just like, we gotta just feed the baby. And she sucked it down and slept for the first time in her life that night. And it was a really difficult emotional night for our household because it's just like, we'd absorbed all the stigma, and we'd absorbed all the potential shame, and but she's fine. Everyone grows up fine. You know what I mean? The vast majority of people. But still, the system is you could barely call it a system. And so, while that's the case, we need to just look out for each other as best we can, share the tips that we can, destigmatize where we can. And you know what? We're gonna do our best here at Social Rounds to do that shit for all y'all out there, moms and dads and everybody. So that's our hopeful news. And now we're going to go into outside baseball news, which is tragically a little less hopeful. But we're gonna get to the bottom of this as well. So outside baseball, we're talking about swallowing stuff and how you're not supposed to do that to all stuff. So a 13-year-old boy in New Zealand went online to find some dope ass magnets, as one does. But he bought the really like delicious kind that are almost like too enticing not to eat. Like those, they're like tiny little circles, like 5 mm wide circular magnets. This completely irresistible. So he just ate like 100 of them, and he may have eaten them individually as tiny snacks or grouped them together a few at a time. But the thing about magnets is that regardless of whether they're inside or outside of your body, they do magnet things. They just stick to each other. And because the small intestine is one super long looping tube, the magnets in one part of the intestine stick to the magnets that are in other parts of the intestine. And that's a problem because when you squeeze your bowel walls super tight between two magnets, the blood supply cuts off and the tissue dies and then has to be surgically removed, and the tissue around it needs to be removed. If you leave it there, you're going to develop holes in your bowel. Really, really bad news. So your boy had to go get major bowel surgery, may face lifelong complications because he couldn't resist the call of the magnets. So Francis May, foreign body ingestions, that's what we call it in the business, guys. Ingestions and insertions. I will not rule out insertions because we got to talk about those too. Those aren't new to us in medicine. Most specialties have their stories about these amazing x-rays that show stuff in the body that totally shouldn't be there. But my question for you, my friend, what is the foreign body story from residency or attending life or med school that really made you stop and like try to enter the mind of that person and really just be like, you know what? Why? Like how did you get here?
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like my colleagues in radiology and like the emergency room, they are constantly, chock full of those questions. I honestly, what I liked about ENT was that there would be like a fewer insertions into orifices, right? Like I didn't want to be like, yeah, we're orifice people, but clavicles and up, and it just does not hit the same. So I say that because I'm trying to justify like my more muted response, which is that I don't professionally have to deal with whatever people want to put in other orifices. That being said, what happens realistically is that like for the past 3 years, there were a lot of like peds foreign bodies, ear, nose, But those are not fun, and they honestly aren't really on purpose. I guess I'd say like a kid would have, some kind of magic putty on their hands, and then, oh, what was bad was that at sleepovers, people were putting stuff in each other's ears. That caused a lot of, I mean, I literally,
At your
Tony, I kid you not.
sleepovers? Or
No, no, a sleepover in
Uh,
town. I'm the doctor in this scenario.
you're the doc. Okay, I didn't know if we were going back to the 90s and
No,
this
no,
is
no,
part of your 90s child trauma.
no, no,
Okay.
no. That's a whole other. We have to like scrap the news segments, and we could just do like one '90s day, and that'd be a fun adventure. But no, there
Yes.
was a sleepover like it locally, and some people just want to watch the world burn because basically, like as people were going to sleep, they were putting these little little bead type things in their ears, and I
Children
kid you not.
are little insane demons. I love it.
Oh, 100%. Tony, I added on to clinic multiple attendees from this party. Like over the
The whole
next
party,
about
the whole
two,
party showed up.
well, except
Yes.
for like the initial, rabble rouser. Like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
and it maybe
who
was
is
like
on
one
who
or
is on the
two,
lam, like skip town.
pretty much. No, it literally, because there was like a pair of siblings and then another unrelated girl trickled in. I mean, it was just all these people calling to the point that the front desk were like, oh, were you from like the party? Were you from like the 10th birthday party? Like we've
Oh my
had
God,
a
they're all
whole
10
slew
years
of
old.
you.
Yes. Oh my God. And I love how the trickle in happens because the fun thing about ear stuff, especially if it happens in the middle of the night, you don't really know that something's in your ear. It
Oh, they
takes a
started
while.
checking some other like word got around. It was like, hey, a couple girls at this party, they got ear uh object placement occurred. Like check your ears. And so like pediatricians were checking like the other attendees' ears. Because exactly, some of them, the later people came in asymptomatic. They just happened to have like some little stuff not touching the TM, just chilling.
So who did you? So that's what I'm saying. Like, so you have this this mass casualty event, right? Of ear insertions at a party, like 80% of the kids. But then, like as you're doing this, as they're getting called into your rooms one after the other, aren't you like thinking about, okay, who is this kid? Who is this kid that did this? What was going through their head?
I I think I've mentioned this to you. I don't know that many kids. I basically ascribed them the Joker personality from like Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. That's why I said like some people just want to watch the world burn. I'm literally picturing a small child with like full Joker makeup and personality who's like shoving stuff into kids' ears as they sleep. And I do need to specify because obviously when we talk about beads, yeah, I've seen the plastic ones too. Those hurt more. This was actually a new technology that I didn't know. It's like almost they look like Dippin' Dots. But this is some new fad that like kids have. It's like better technology than our old Play-Doh. So anyway, it was like very
Is
tiny.
extra annoying to get at.
It's like magnetic sand almost beads, like just these little guys.
Oh,
And that's why they could be asymptomatic too, though. Because like if you think of a 90s bead, there is not a way to shove that into someone's canal that is going to get very far that it wouldn't wake or hurt them. And so these little guys were just creepy and they were sitting down
I
there.
love it. I like to think that kid, at the party they were playing with it or someone got it as a party gift and they were just like, they were so excited about it that they knew they couldn't sleep that night at the sleepover until they had gotten this stuff into everyone's ear holes. Like it's just, the kid probably does that at home, with their stuffed animals or what, or maybe their siblings or something. But they were just like, I will not rest tonight. I cannot rest my body until I know that this stuff is in everyone's ears. And honestly, they're probably surprised. Maybe they thought they'd thank them for it. I mean, it's maybe it was really fun. I hope the kid didn't get in too much trouble. Kids get curious. They do dumb shit. But like, I don't know.
I feel like this is such, I'm going to just paraphrase the old quote of like, how you view the world is really just a statement about who you are as a person, because that is such a foreign interpretation to me. My next best guess was that basically they wanted everyone to stay up later than they stayed up as girls wimped out and fell asleep. Their punishment was that they got some stuff put in their
Wow.
ears.
Yeah,
That,
punishment. That was where you went. You were just
I
like,
mean, like
no,
retaliation for like, I
yeah,
didn't want you to go to sleep
because
and you
girls
went to
are
sleep.
mean. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
We're
Shit.
just very different people.
We're very different people. Yeah. I mean, so okay, so here we go. Here's
Because you're
my
like, the
favorite
excitement
one.
kept her up. You know how that be. Like,
You know
I
how that you know how that
never,
goes?
yeah.
I was yeah, I'm coming from a place of joy and partying and birthday excitement, and you're coming from a place of girl on girl
Revenge.
emotional revenge and retaliation.
No, I mean, revenge, yeah, that keeps me up. I could count on one hand the number of times I've been lying awake at night with excitement, but yeah, revenge does, that cuts into my REM cycles.
Wow. Okay, so here we go. My favorite story of insertion. I think it was back in residency, and I used to hang out in radiology sometimes. And I think the best one was an X-ray of someone's, abdomen pelvis area. And it had a whole ass remote control, in the colon. So this had been, just shoved up the butt, essentially. And y'all know remote control. Like, this wasn't like one of your dinky little ones. This was
Not an
like one of the
Apple
old
TV, you're
school.
saying?
This isn't the Apple TV I'm talking about. This is like back in the early aughts when you had cable. You know those cable remote controls that are just like, like 9-10 inches long and they're wide and all this. It's one of them. And we were just like, oh man, that is outstanding. Cause like, it's big enough where they can't pull it back out. You got to go in and have surgery and have it removed. And it's a whole big thing. But, and this isn't kids anymore. We're talking about grown folks, who get, you get curious about how much you can fit up there sometimes. I guess like and then I was trying to think, like, I'm trying to put myself in that mindset. Like, in what venues do I feel that sort of intense curiosity about just what's gonna happen, right? Like, like, I mean, taking out of it, just like, yeah, maybe we're like having a sexually pleasurable experience, that drives the curiosity, sure. But that's like a lot to put up there and just like, realize like, uh-oh, at some point, you know what I mean? But then I was like, man, like, I don't know. It reminded me of, I don't know if you've seen this Key and Peele, skit where there's a guy at a job interview or something, and there's this like big, bucket of marbles on the boss's, table. And he just, every time the boss turns around, he like dips his hand in the marbles and just starts shoving them in his mouth because they look incredible and he just wants to feel them in his mouth. And I was just like, you know what? It's gotta be one of those situations. But I can understand the curiosity that leads you there. To the point where, you may have to go and get surgery. And I wish, the curious among us, no ill will, because I get it. It's not like you're wasting our time, in the hospital. Like, we get paid to get the stuff out. But I was like, man, have I ever been that curious? Because I never been a hole guy, like I never wanted like stick stuff in holes, like as a little kid. But I was
Yeah,
trying
I
to
mean,
like, I don't know. Do you have like any overwhelming curiosities that have led you to to do the wrong shit?
wow, I never know where you're going, and what a fascinating journey you just took us on. First of all, now I really don't believe that you're sick, because like when I have a cold, I'm not exploring such
When I'm
intricacies of
sick,
life.
I feel very existential. I lie in my bed and I'm just thinking about stuff, and
Oh
I
yeah.
get the rabbit
Like
holes are wide
classic
open.
yeah, like you laid around like a Victorian child all week, and now you're like slightly coming out of it, and you're like, what's up guys, like who's
Yeah, I'm just like,
curious
hey,
and why
guess
are
what?
you
I got
curious,
stuff to talk about. No one's talked to me for a week.
and like what are you curious about? Again, this is crazy. It just, at least now I know what this says about me. Not an overly curious person. I have to fight off various melancholies just to just to get out of bed every day. And consequently, I don't. But here's what's so funny, because obviously, like, I understand urges. And so I'll speak to that part of it. Like, but in terms of overwhelming curiosity, I'm a very, like, introverted, I think, and cerebral person. So until like this past year or so, I wasn't even noticing things, right? Like, I'm saying it's a normal occurrence where Colin and I are driving through the town we've lived in for 3 years now. And I'll point something out. I'll be like, that's crazy. Do you see that billboard? Like, that's new. I've never seen that before. And Colin will say, that's been here as long as we've been here. He's used to me, like, not having any peripheral vision, not seeing, like, what's going on, because I
I'm
have
glad
my own
Colin's doing the
projects.
driving. Yeah. No, yeah.
Yes. And I barely drive. I'm full passenger princess. So, okay, so I'm doing my own projects. But here's where the urges come in. It is kind of true that, like, if somebody tells me that I shouldn't or can't do something, then okay, like, now I'm interested. And now I'm thinking about it. But this is so funny because it goes back to a core driver, I guess, that isn't curiosity, but it actually even kind of loops back around to revenge, which we just talked about. I'm, like, somewhat highly motivated by, like, spite and vengeance.
I love that is the core insight into your life that we're getting today. Just thoughts of revenge are just circulating at any given moment for you.
I mean, there's always at least a couple.
Now, is it violent revenge? Is it political revenge? Is, like, just I want to ruin someone's life, or I just want to make them feel a certain type of way? Because I'm not big into revenge thoughts. I never, like, sit around thinking of revenge. Maybe I should, but it seems like that's your go-to. I'm curious the types of revenge, or do you run the gamut?
Yeah, no. I seriously, like, I would just more say, like, with the urges and, like, everything they told me not to is everything I would. I've been saddened by recent Kanye because I loved Kanye, but
We did
now
love
we don't,
Kanye.
we don't support, and I don't personally, like, get to stream him anymore. But
Mm.
I'm just saying, like, that. But if you could take early 2000s Kanye mentality, before the breakdown, sure. I think that it's just more this maybe urge to be contrarian. And then in terms of revenge, I'm in my 30s now, so the best revenge is living well. But if you see me living well, it still probably came from an initial ideology or seed of, like, revenge. Like, to me, living well is not done to live well. Like, I think if we really, like, unpack
It's
enough
done
layers
to show
of it,
these bitches that
yes, you got to stunt on them
you are living well.
sometimes.
Yes.
And, like,
Okay.
genuinely, I do believe in karma. So I don't wish ill upon people because I just straight up cannot afford to from a karmic standpoint. It's not
But
because when I was younger,
you wish good on yourself.
I wish good on myself, which means at most I can offer neutrality to people, which is, like, that is actually a practice I'm doing now. In my 20s, no, I dreamt of violent revenge. But that's the
Reasonable.
old me. That's Frances May, like, 3.0.
That's the old Kanye. Like, no, Frances May grew up, and she doesn't wish death upon you anymore. She's gonna live her life, and she's gonna make sure you see it. Well, that's great. Revenge and butt stuff. We're doing great this episode. Now, let's go in to social rounds, my friend. Can you take us in?
Yes, our next segment, social rounds. This is where we become your life attendings, because it's become abundantly clear that many of you out there are in desperate need of guidance, and we've got the kind of wisdom that only comes from running out of fucks. Question of the week: should you give free medical advice to your family and friends?
This is a good question because, like, yeah, I mean, people always sort of sideways ask you, right? Like, and they try to make a joke of it, like, oh, you're a doctor? Can you look at this lump on my neck? Ha 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 ha. But, like, seriously, like, please look at the lump, right? Like, that's always how it goes. And it doesn't matter, like, what type of doctor you are. People that you know will ask you anything about their bodies. And so the question is, how do we deal, or do we not deal? And we leave them on red. I mean, I know how I deal. Like, generally, I mean, and it's probably, like, core to my fucking, inviting face bullshit that I have going on. It's just like, I'm always happy to help. And like it's not an annoyance. And I don't know many people for whom like getting this question is an annoyance, especially if it comes from people you love and or like. I mean, what do you think?
I live a life of relative solitude. This question, it does not bother me. When people ask me it, it means usually just by definition that we are close enough that I do love them. And so I'm happy to answer the question. But again, in terms of like raw numbers, I probably don't get the question very often. Again, going back to living a life of near complete solitude.
Here's my thing with this. I really love like, I think if you're a friend of a doctor, family of a doctor, just ask them. Never feel weird about it. We're happy to talk to if we like you. It's not like, you're ruining our day, or like you're not like the paparazzi as if we were like super, super famous and we just like, can't be bothered. My favorite thing to do though, as regards like kind of giving medical advice outside of school, is actually, you know, telling people how to talk to their doctors. Like I like, yeah, I can give you advice, like say like, oh, this looks like this, but most of the time people ask me questions outside my wheelhouse. But what I really love to do is kind of help people feel a little more empowered when they go to the doctor to ask the right questions, because we had like when you enter into that office, regardless of how painfully approachable your doctor may look, there's a power dynamic there, right? And like a lot of folks are nervous, they don't ask the questions, or they're afraid to look like they don't know what the doctor's talking about. So you guys don't follow up, you don't ask clarifying things, you just kind of take it and walk out the door. And then you're wondering why, you don't know what's going on with your own body. And I think it's important for anybody who's a patient to know as much as they can about what's going on with their body, what to expect with medications, what to expect with disease processes. So, I've had this with like a lot of friends whose family, or, who are personally like going through a cancer diagnosis, for example. I'm not a cancer doctor. I have dealt with cancer in my, practice, as have you, Francis May, but, the whole thing is like, how can you feel as empowered as possible in these interactions so that you understand what's going on inside your body and what's going to be done to your body, right? And so that's like, we're getting back to like, Tony's, teacher instinct. Like that's what I really love to do. And we'll always do that for, family and friends, strangers, maybe, on a good day. If you called me today, yeah, I'd do this for you. It'd be great.
Yeah. I love it. That's great. That has not come up as much for me. I do feel like people know that I'm an ENT and have almost solely asked me ENT questions, but I aspire to, I'm going to work on my smile. I'm going to put out a different vibe that says, come get some, which I assume is the vibe that you're putting out that's getting all this response.
Come get some. You know what? If that's what I'm giving out, that is a lot.
I don't know
But
what you're giving out. I'm just seeing the sequela of it. All this stuff is happening to you, and I'm like, oh, that must, like causation from point A to B.
hey, I mean, you don't have to smile any more than you feel like smiling, Francis May. You just do you. And if you like, your life of solitude has done you pretty well. You're doing okay, I think. But I think this is more a PSA to anybody who may come across you, who may meet you in the future. Like, guess what? Frances May is open for business. She does want you to come get some. So shower her with whatever it is, that you have. She'll love it. Look, she's
I think my mom watches this show, so, well.
So does mine. Does your mom talk to you about the show?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. My
She
mom
likes it.
texts
She
me.
likes
My
you.
mom texts me every week. Oh, hi, mom. Yeah. Shout out to your mom. Shout out to your moms.
Yeah.
I'm
I know.
giving a
Shout
shout out,
outs to
saying what's up.
moms. We'll
Yeah,
try to continue to keep it classy, keep it mindful,
guys,
that this is like a mom friendly show.
we're making you guys so proud. We can feel it. It's great. We're very proud of what we are doing and what we have become. Anyway, I think that concludes yet another successful and legendary episode of Social Rounds.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Social Rounds. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. Check out our website, hippocratic-collective.com, for more shows and content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week.
Bye.